the middle of the 36-year window. It's not the beginning. It's not the end. So where does it end? And when I say end, I mean the window stops being the window and tapers off to something else. It doesn't open and shut like you would expect in 3 dimensions, where something opens and the wind comes through and you slam it shut and the wind stops. That's not it. You gradually, as they might say, mushed into it, and you're gradually going to mush out of it, meaning it's gradual. The end of the window, 2030. You're close to it, but you're also receiving the energy that was developed at the fulcrum, 2012. Dear ones, you are at the height of the differences right now to be seen on the planet, and you're seeing them right now. It's so interesting that you can then take a step backwards and start looking at history, what has happened, including things that you've developed, including that which is the Me Too movement, the idea of cleaning up that which the church has been ashamed of for eons. These things never happened before, not in this way. And there are those who would say it could never happen because of human nature, because you can't change that which is the old energy. Well, you did, and it is changing. Countries are changing. Attitudes are changing. What people will allow and not allow within their own societies is changing. We've said it before, watch for that which seems impossible. Watch for that which is where the people start to object if their government is not doing them correctly, is not watching out for them correctly. And correctly meaning with integrity or honesty or transparency, which are the new words that people are starting to use, perhaps for the first time ever in the contexts that they are being used. This 36-year window is where you are. Most of you listening to this right now were adults when the window started. And if you were not, then you were born right in the middle of the shift. You have a completely different attribute. So where are you in all of this as you awaken from this coma of old energy? Now here is another fact about timing. When the individual awakens from a coma, in the movies, they open their eyes and all is well. And they remember everything and the relatives crowd around them and say, welcome back. It's not that way. The awakening, the recovery from eons of dark energy may last years. You start to be aware that there's something bigger. You start to learn. You start to fight off perhaps the old energy that tells you you're crazy because you start thinking differently. Then you start being cognizant of things that you never knew before. You meet people who tell you things to think about. And over a period of time, you're fully awake. That's the timing of coming out of the coma of darkness. And there are so many levels of it that you'll meet those who are still just awakening and others who awakened years ago. And they are different, and they sound different, and they're interested in different things because they're learning. How do you sit with all of this? I have just described an amazing, awesome phenomena, an awakening planet, and the gyrations of what happens when it does. These are the things I wanted to discuss with you and tell you about. I want you to relax with it all with yourself. Where do you sit in all of this? What were you doing in 1994? There are those who will say, is there time to complete what we came for? Yes, absolutely. When the window is over, it simply means that most of the actionable items will have occurred. And what is next then is a continued recovery. Into the light you go, opening the door, you are. So these are the things we wanted to tell you about today so that you will relax a little more within yourself. If you are feeling an awakening and you don't know why, or you're asking yourself, what is happening to me that I'm even watching this channeling? I know who's here. I'm in love with all of you for asking these questions. And the biggest one, is there more than I was told? The answer, oh yeah. And so it is.
And following that divine, love-filled message from Kryon, I invite you, bring your awareness back into your body. Open up those eyes of yours if you've had them closed. And we're joined this evening by a cosmic guest by the name of Ishmael Perez. And I want to make sure Ishmael is on the Zoom feed with us. Ishmael, are you there?
I sure am. Hi, guys. How are you guys doing?
All right.
Wow. Well, we can already see he's out in the cosmos. I love your background.
That fits very well.
It fits beautifully.
Before I begin, I want to tell you that this next guest here, Ishmael, fits very well into what Kryon has told us about the light-dark battle that we're facing right now. In fact, the last few channels have really pegged it. We're talking about a specific time to shift. Remember that Kryon has told us repeatedly that the dark energy on this planet wants to fight the light that is starting to show and wants to take us right back to a warring civilization. Let me ask you, have you seen any of that? My guest sees it too and is invested in bringing us star seeds together in what he is calling a cosmic war. Ishmael Perez calls himself a cosmic ambassador who represents an intergalactic alliance known as the Covenant of Palador. It's a cosmic treaty that was initiated by the forces of light in the higher dimensions to protect and guard the earth.
So Ishmael knows that he is one of the inner council members who is here to bring forth the next level of cosmic disclosure that will restore our planet back to its original glory in fulfillment of the galactic prophecies. Ishmael tells us that the information he has to present has never been heard on this planet.
Ishmael is one of the elite super soldiers that is involved in this cosmic war. There's a book, and it's called The Cosmic Origin, available on Amazon. Also, there's a newer version of it. He's going to tell you here how to get it if I remember to ask him. Ishmael, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor and pleasure. I've actually been a fan of Kryon for over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, you guys were one of the Kryon, the entity that comes through has been one of my favorites to listen to, even throughout my journey as a younger starseed. And it is a great privilege to be here.
Well, and thank you for that. I didn't know that. So that touches me. I want to hear your story before you tell us anything about the book or anything that you're doing truly. Tell me the story of how this began, the realization of who you were and what you're supposed to do here.
Sure. So it all began when I was a kid. I realized that I was different. I am what you consider an awakened starseed, where I have full recollection of all my lifetimes of who I was before incarnating into human form. And one of the things that I noticed as a young boy, perhaps by the age of 4, is that nobody else was communicating with animals, plants, or trees telepathically the way I was. And I used to ask my siblings and cousins if they could also communicate with animals, and they would laugh at me. So that was one of the first indicators that made me wonder, like, what am I doing here? This realm, this earth, or this world does not seem familiar to me. And then as I grew up, I had an inner understanding of things. I never quite took everything that they taught me face value, especially organized religion. I was very rebellious in school. In elementary, especially, and again, throughout junior high and high school, now that I think about it. But I was always want to question everything. It just didn't make sense to me. It just didn't register. And so I felt from the beginning that I was different. And as a kid, I did explore this inner understanding of things. And unfortunately, due to my religious upbringing, I was not indoctrinated, but forced, you could say, to suppress my inner understanding of things. So I was forced to go to church. I was forced to pray the rosary twice a week for 2 hours, kneeling on my knees. I mean, my grandmother really wanted to, make sure I had no, make sure that I didn't believe in the stuff that I was talking about as a kid. They thought it was woo woo, and they thought it was of the dark side, when I was talking about telepathy and everything like that. And so it wasn't until I probably was about the age of 15 that I started doing my own research. That's when I would seclude myself in a local library or even at the bookstore over at the local university and just read as much as I could. And I started reading philosophy. I got into Plato's Republic, which was a fascinating book. I read all of his works, by the way. I got into reading about Socrates and learning how to reflect and learning how to really just realize who we are as individuals. What he used to call know thyself and stuff, which made a lot of sense to me. I also got into political theory, volume 1 and 2. So I learned everything as far as like the open society is concerned, political theory, philosophy. I mean, I read every 18th century philosopher, but I wasn't yet satisfied. I didn't feel like that was the fields of information that I was gravitating towards. I almost felt like there was something missing. So it wasn't until I discovered metaphysical knowledge. At the age of 17, I had an opportunity to read great books that were written by Sai Baba, Babaji, Ascended Beings, the autobiography of the yogi. And those books really just resonated with me. And then that's when I discovered my niche. At that point, I decided to learn how to meditate. So I was taught Kriya Kundalini Yoga around the age of 18. And it wasn't until the age of 19 that I took it seriously, where I started implementing the breathing techniques and the visualization and everything that came along with that. And it took me a few months to actually reconnect with that aspect of myself as a kid, where I was somehow intuitively connected with nature, with animals, with people, with trees, plants, everything that was living. And so that rekindled, through meditation, that rekindled in me. And then that's when I started getting downloads. I wasn't quite sure where all this information was coming from. All I knew is that I had access to information that had never been written. And so that's when I realized that I was channeling my higher self, which is a galactic being. And by the way, every starseed out there, every celestial in human form that took the call to be here at this time is operating in multidimensional avatars on different frequencies and on different timelines. So I came to the realization that I was actually accessing information from my future self, which also corresponds to my higher galactic self. And as a result of that, I started writing Our Cosmic Origin, and this was a book that was going to reintroduce the very essence of our origin, which is not what Darwinian portrays. Obviously, Darwinian evolution is very, very incorrect. And then, of course, it wasn't that simple theory of creation as imposed by organized religion, saying that we've been created, for the last 6,000 years by this bearded God sitting on a cloud. So what I did is, as a way to reveal the truth regarding our cosmic and celestial origin, I decided to write this book that actually tells us a different story. And the truth of this story echoes all the way to the higher dimensions where we descended from. So I came to realize that mankind on the earth was a final manifestation of a long process involving a descent that took place in the technically in the eternal spheres and in the always existing realms with no beginning or end. And then through the process of descending, which is the lowering of frequency, our consciousness descended into different octaves, into lower octaves, becoming lesser, more denser and denser. And so I came to the realization that humankind on the earth is the final product of a long descent that has been going on for billions of years. And that we are not the only human-like species here on this planet, but that we share a common ancestry throughout not only our galaxy, our universe, but throughout the entire multiverse at large. And for those that are questioning the idea of a multiverse, there is proof, by the way, through cutting edge science that we indeed, in fact, do live in a multiverse, that our universe is one of many universes. And there is not only scientific evidence coming through quantum science, superstring theory, amp theory, and unified field theory, but again, it also corresponds to the ancient esoteric wisdom that talked about, the realms of eternity. So the whole point is that mankind on the earth is the final manifestation of a long descent that took place long ago, and that our kind, the human lineage is actually common throughout the many universes. So there is some sort of an Adam Catman blueprint that all the worlds follow, where we see the same creature evolving throughout the many worlds. And in our particular universe, let's say the original humans, according to my downloads, and then of course later confirmed by my research, we actually originated in a higher version of the Earth that was located on a system called Lyra. And so there is a lot of evidence coming from other channels and validated from other sources that are all saying, yes, Lyra was definitely the cradle of all human society. Here in our universe, of course, technically humans do migrate from other universes. Of course, the Lyrans, the unique race that came to be known as the original Lyrans, were actually the culmination of many different humanoid races from across many different universes, which makes a lot of sense as to why even our own universe became kind of like the melting pot of all the different Adamic races. So we do share a common ancestry. That's the whole point. And I came to discover that that all these different advanced civilizations that exist for the great majority of them, that they are all actually human-like, that it's only the 30% that are non-human, that are perhaps, feline, or that are perhaps, they look like bird people, and all these other variations of different types of species that are non-human, but yet they all kind of live and share the cosmos in harmony. And so I came to that realization, that human beings on the earth were the final extension of what started off in the higher dimensions, and that even the earth has higher versions of herself existing in higher dimensions. So we could say that the original human, the original Lyran, was immortal. And there's, again, a lot of evidence providing that that's where we came from. So our original ancestry came from a higher dimensional world that existed in Lyra. And that planet was known as Avion. So many believe that Avion was actually also known as the first Earth, because this current planet is the third expression of the Lyran world, known as Avion. So there is an intimate, intricate connection between the Earth that we're living in, that is actually existing in the lowest dimensions, that dropped also in consciousness and in being from the system of Lyra. So that brings me to the next point, because there are many universes. There has to be organization to the cosmic structure. So from what I've come to discover is that everything in creation is holistic. Everything is interconnected through energy. So all the different densities, all the different dimensions, all they are just different faces of energy matter vibrating at different rates. But they're all emanations of one singular light. And so I came to discover the structure of the multiverse, and how from the highest levels of reality, from the realms of eternity, which correspond to what some people would call the motherverse, or the central universe, if you want to incorporate the Urantia revelation, we all began at that level of reality, which coincidentally, according to the Emerald Order, which is again the intergalactic alliance of guardians that I am associated with. And believe it or not, all the volunteers out there that are here on the earth, whether they know it or not, they're also part of the Emerald Order. We all work for the same forces of light. So the whole point is that Earth began in the 12th dimension in a realm known as the pre-material realms, where there was no matter yet, where everything was still liquid light in its perfect state of vibration, and through a process of descent, and also through a split of consciousness where we had the fall. And this, again, ties into the last war that is now taking place here between the forces of darkness and, of course, the light. But through this conflict, through this fall of creator gods, whatever you want to call them, Elohim, high-level celestials, there was a sense of dropping in frequencies, even for the planet Earth. So what started off as a 12-dimensional pre-matter, pre-material realm eventually dropped into a lower octave, and that's when the Earth became the 8th-dimensional planet Avalon, still located in the Lyra system. So the first conflict that caused the first drop of the Earth from the 12-dimensional version of itself into the 8th-dimensional Earth was the War of the Elohim. And the War of the Elohim has a lot to do with the inorganic timeline, what we call the AI time loop, which is the ultimate evil that every advanced civilization has been contending with for the last billions of years. So from the 8th-dimensional Earth, we were still semi-immortal. We were still existing in using higher avatars that weren't as dense as this 3rd-dimensional avatar. Due to another conflict that took place between the fallen Elohim, or the fallen celestials from the 12th dimension, and those that remained loyal to the infinite prime creator source in which everything comes from, there was another conflict that was known as the Electrical Wars. And then that was around the time that our current Earth was also corresponding with a development, or at least the inception, of the original human 12-strand DNA Turanusian race, which coexisted about 560 years ago with the Lyran planet known as Avalon. So that's where we get the concept of Avalon, by the way. King Arthur, right? Going back to Avalon. So it's all metaphor, by the way. But the whole point is that due to the second conflict between those that remain loyal to Prime Creator Source and those that rebelled against unity consciousness, which is separative consciousness. And that's when, the original sin came about, right? And you separate from everything else. And then you start taking matters into your hand. You try to dominate life in general, and then you try to destroy it. So that's what happens when you rebel against the light, is you become separated from it, that you're no longer getting your energy from the universal life force that comes from source. So what do is when you're no longer plugged into the cosmic source light of universal life force, you start acting like a parasite. And that's when evil became rampant, is that these beings that broke away from the oneness, who were no longer connected to source, weren't being sustained anymore. And so in order for them to preserve and sustain themselves, they started harnessing energy from the beings that were still connected to source. And that explains why these Archons, or these entities, later that manifested in the form of the reptilians, particularly the Draconians, became parasites throughout the universe. They became like vampires. They started, trying to conquer and dominate worlds and put planets under their control so that they could harness their energy, which is loosh. So that's where we get the concept of the vampire, by the way, is that these fallen entities that disconnect from source need energy to survive. And the only way they could get that energy is by causing suffering, stress, and torture among biological, human entities. That's
exactly what we're seeing right now.
It's happening again.
It's happening. I don't want to lose the fact that I know that you're going to do a meditation for us, and I want to make sure that we have time to do it. And everything you're saying, my whole thing says, I want to reconnect to the consciousness that was original. Is that?
Yes, and we're all heading to that.
Yeah. Do you tell us about that? Maybe you can lead us through a meditation that'll help us with that.
Sure. So to make a long story short, Earth has always existed in higher realities and higher forms, just like we have different versions of ourselves. She eventually dropped all the way to the 3rd-dimensional aspect of herself, which is the current Earth that we're in. And the ascension, the great restoration that we all hear about, is about reconnecting the Earth back into her higher versions of herself, as we also connect to higher versions of ourselves. And that's the beauty of the times that we're living in. Now, there is, of course, one final battle that is going to take place. And in that battle, I believe, according to my research and knowledge, is a battle that actually takes place after the bifurcation, after the split of the spiritual ascending Earth, the organic positive timeline, and then, of course, the other negative timeline, also known as the technocratic dystopia. Those are going to be separated for about 1,000 years, but then at the end of the 1,000 years, there will be one final battle against the inorganic AI time loop, which will ultimately usher in a whole new era in cosmos. But yes, we're here to to not only restore the organic way of life, but to make sure that the positive optimal timeline becomes secure for all life and all eternity. Now, I do want to guide everybody through a meditation that will allow you to connect with higher versions of yourself. And this meditation was actually taught to me by Michael the Archangel. And so I call it the Archangel Michael meditation. And it is one of the methods that I personally used over the years to connect with, again, my galactic self, which I also call my future self. And so I believe that every single one of you guys out there has different versions of yourself that are also coexisting simultaneously, all on these different realities. So the whole point of this meditation is to begin the multidimensional integration process, which is what I call the true meaning of ascension. So with that have said, let's get into a very comfortable position with a straight back. And let's begin with breathing through our nose to relax, inhaling, and exhaling through our mouth as well. Let's do that a few times. Okay, so now that we are in a state of relaxation, let's send love and appreciation to all 7 chakras at the same time. So imagine your 7 wheels spinning to the right and to the left as you are clearing them up from any spiritual or astral debris. And you're also sending love, light, and appreciation to your 7 centers, as they are different levels of consciousness. And in so doing, now I want you guys to visualize all your billions of cells in your body and just shower them, engulf them with light coming from the great central sun of the galactic core via our sun, and just shower and envelop every fiber of your being with liquid light coming from the central core. And now I want you guys to take your attention over into your 8th chakra, which is outside of your body, located about 3 to 4 feet above your head, and begin to also clear it as we spin it to the right and spin it to the left to clear it from any debris. And as we do so, your 8th chakra, I want you guys to now begin the merging of your individual unit of consciousness, which is your I am, your personality, your individual presence, with the planetary mind of Mother Earth. So I want you guys to merge with the consciousness field of Mother Earth. So you are no longer an individual. You are now the entire ecosystem. And I want you guys to use your imagination and your emotions to feel what it's like to be an entire ecosystem with living things, all kinds of animals, insects, you know, everything, the elements, water, wind, air, fire. You are it all. And just feel what it's like to be an entire ecosystem, sustaining life. As you are also spinning to the right, your 8th chakra, and to the left. So we're using that chakra to connect with Mother Earth's mind. So send love, light, and appreciation to your ecosystem as you are one with the earth. And you breathe it in so you can feel it. And now I want you guys to put the focus on your 9th chakra, which is located right above the stratosphere, right before we get into space, which is really high up there. And I want you guys to spin it to the right and to the left as we clear it from any debris. And now use the 9th chakra to connect with the heliosphere, the mind of our star, our sun, Helios and Vesta, who also has an amazing personality and is a being, an entity at a macro level of reality, sustaining the planets here that we are part of. So visualize and feel what it's like to be the body of an entire solar system. It's very electrifying. Send love, light, and appreciation to your sun self, your star self, as you are now sustaining planets. Now let's take the focus to the 10th chakra, which is located right outside of the heliosphere. Spin it to the right and then to the left to clear it from any debris. And use that chakra to connect with the cluster of stars that we are a part of. Feel what it's like to be a body of stars, a cluster of stars, connected through electromagnetic filaments. Send love, light, and appreciation to your nebula self as you are focusing on the 10th chakra. Now you give thanks. And now we bring our attention and focus to the 12th chakra. I'm sorry, the 11th chakra. The 11th chakra, which is located at the center of our galaxy, which is the galactic central sun. So now merge your nebula self with the entire mind of the Milky Way galaxy. So now you are Melchior. You are a galactic entity with billions of stars revolving around the center. Feel the power of the light that you sustained. Billions of suns and planets. Billions of suns and planets. Feel what it's like to be a galaxy. Send love, light, and appreciation to your galactic self. And now we bring our attention and focus to the 12th chakra. We spin it to the right and then to the left to clear it. Now we connect with the universal mind of our local universe. And the 12th chakra is also located at the center of the galactic central sun of our local universe, where many galaxies revolve around. So picture yourself and feel what it's like to be the body of an entire universe, with billions of galaxies revolving around your core. Send love, light, and appreciation. And now we are going to undergo the integration process as we are one with everything that is. So now, as you are focused on the 12th chakra, your universal self, now we're going to collapse it into the 11th chakra, into your galactic self, and see it collapsing downward. Your galactic chakra is collapsing into your nebula chakra. So I want you guys to visualize all chakras collapsing into one. Your nebula chakra is collapsing into your solar system chakra, and your solar system chakra collapses into the planetary chakra. And now I want you guys to bring that cosmic awareness into your physical body and integrate it through your 7 chakras and anchor it into the core of Mother Earth. And feel what it's like to be everything all at once. Your consciousness is one with universal awareness, which is the mind of the universe and everything in between. After a few deep breaths, we give thanks. We start feeling our bodies, wiggling our toes, and we could begin to open up our eyes. Of course, if you guys want to do a slower version of that meditation, it's going to allow you guys to connect with, again, your multidimensional self.
That was exquisite. Thank you so much, Ishmael. And I want to let everyone know the website where they can find out more, which is cosmicorigin.com. It's very easy to remember because that's also the name of Ishmael's book. So, Ishmael, you are going on tour and you're going to be around the place in these next coming weeks. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure, yes. On November 16th at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be in Denver, Colorado. And then on the 20th, November 20th, I'm going to be in St. Louis, Missouri at 3 o'clock p.m. And then after that, on the 27th of November, I'm going to be in Smithtown, New York on the 27th at 3 o'clock. And after that, I'm going to make an appearance in Florida. And I believe the city's called Farmingdale on the 28th of November. And then on the 4th of December, I'm going to be in Boca Raton, Florida on the 4th of December. And then finally, on the 6th of December, I'm going to be in Naples. I believe Naples is Florida as well.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
At 3:00 p.m. So if you guys, for the listeners, if you live in those states and you want to attend, what I could do is give you guys the link, the Eventbrite link, and you guys could always post it here in the description.
Perfect. And for anyone else watching the replay, I'm sure if you go to cosmicorigin.com, you'll be able to get the latest information about all the places that Ishmael will be.
Ishmael also has a newer version of his Amazon book. Where can we get that?
Through my website, ourcosmicorigin.com. All you got to do is when you go into that website, click on A for Amazon, and you will get the new edited version with an added chapter that actually talks about what happens after the Earth is restored back into the age of light.
Awesome.
So it's
the updated version.
Beautiful. So I think that was a correction on my part. It should be ourcosmicorigin.com as the website. I can't believe we're out of time. I think because we collapsed time in that meditation. So Thank you so much, Ishmael, for sharing all of that with us.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, we are going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll see you back here for the Circle of 12.